Welcome to another episode of Fertility Conversations. Today we're joined by a lovely guest, Busola, who joins us all the way from Australia. She joins us today to share her fertility journey and also all that she's currently doing to advocate and raise awareness about fertility and infertility. So firstly, welcome Busola, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Ola. It's lovely to be with you this evening.
Yes, thank you. Thanks so much. We've been trying to do this for a long time, so I'm glad we finally got to
it. I'm so glad that we finally got around it.
Exactly. So to start off, I'll say, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So my name is Busola Olumide. I'm a child of God, and there's a reason why I start with that. There's a story to that. I'm a wife. I'm a mom to two adorable boys now. I'm a clinical embryologist by training, come a fertility educator and coach. I love to cook. I love to travel when I can. I love to educate people. And funny enough, I'm an introvert. So I love my space. Yeah. So I don't know how that mixes being an introvert and love to educate people. But I just love to pass on information, especially in an area which infertility/fertility is all about, where there's so much fear, there's so much information that people can be misguided on. Yeah, so that's what I love to do, and that's that about me.
Wonderful. Glad to have you here with us. So since we're going to be speaking about fertility, and you noted before this podcast recording that you're married, I thought that you'll share with us how you and your spouse met.
Oh, yeah. So my husband and I met while we were in the university. That's Obafemi Awolowo University. We're both medical students. And interestingly, his matric number was before mine. But we didn't get to know each other.
Wow.
Yeah, just before. So it was 236. I was 237. But we didn't get to know each other till our second year in med school, because the first year is a combination of all the science students and medical students, everybody, running the same courses. So when we have exams, we are seated randomly. But by the time we got to our second year, the medical students, everybody went to their different departments. And so that was when the relationship started, and he saw me. I said, "Oh, okay, this is my wife." He just went straight to the point. There was no beating about the bush. And because as a teenager, right from my teenage years, I'd always known I wanted to get married. So that was something I'd been praying about. I just wanted to do life with the right person, and I'm glad that he is the one that I'm doing life with. So
that's how we
met.
Sweet.
So it's been 18 years of being together and 11 years of being married to each other.
Wow. Thank you, you.
Yeah,
you guys are also like a matchmaker. That's amazing. So, and you noted that you've always wanted to get married. So did that also include you wanting to have children, or did that whole idea come later?
Oh, yeah, no, I'd always wanted to have children. In fact, that was part of what we spoke about when we were dating. And I wanted to have 3 kids. He wanted 2, but God had other plans.
Right.
So, yes, I'd always wanted to have children. But, in the climate where we grew up in, culturally, you're supposed to be married before you can even start to talk about children. So,
right.
Yeah, so I just knew that was going to come with the package anyway. And somehow I've always found myself working in that any service that had to do with children. I'd worked in a school, in church, I was in the children's department, even living in Australia. My first job was working with teenagers.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, so I've always had children around me.
So it's a great time to then, have you share your fertility journey as much as you'd like to share with us how that was.
Okay, so we got married in 2012. A year prior to that, I had started working as a clinical embryologist with the pioneer of assisted reproductive technology in West and Central Africa. That's in the person of Professor Giwa Osegi. So we got married the following year, and we decided to wait for a year before having kids, because we wanted to enjoy that 1 year of being man and wife, get to know each other better, even though we've been courting for a while, but it's not just the same when you're living under the same roof, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, we waited for a year, and then when we were ready, we went all out. Okay, so it's time for us to have kids. And then the second day of marriage passed, the third year passed, and nothing was forthcoming. During that time, my immediate younger sister got married, and she was pregnant almost immediately. And I was like, okay, what's going on here? And by the fourth year, I was wondering, I was really, really wondering that, okay, what could be going on? And I was working in a field whereby most of our clientele were women in their 40s and 50s coming in for IVF. So you can imagine someone working in that field. You're married, you're expecting to have children. You're seeing people in their 40s, 50s, some even in their 60s, and you're like, oh, I don't want to be in this situation. So it'll begin to weigh me down psychologically, emotionally. And my husband would, always talk to me, comfort me, and all of that. So at a point in time, my boss called me, that's Prof called me. I was like, so now what's going on? You're working in this field, you should partake of the benefits of this field, So he sent me to do some tests, sent my husband to do some tests. And everything came out fine. He said the only issue was that there was a fibroid, but that shouldn't in any way affect conception. I said, okay, so let's try, naturally and see how that goes. And about 6 months after, I was like, okay, let's go for IUI. Let's try IUI. Of course, as a member of staff there, I was given discounts and all of that. And then we went for that. After the first procedure, I knew I wasn't going to do that again, because I couldn't just imagine, I couldn't just imagine all the, I was like, man, women are really going through a lot, to want to have children. And then you hear of people who have babies and abandon them. And then you're hearing of stories of people, especially you're facing it personal, having the personal experience with that. And you're like, how do you marry both? So it was quite challenging. More so that my younger sister now went on and she had the second baby. And I was
wow.
What's really going on? God, what's really going on? It's not like I lived a careless life. I've not had abortions. It's not like I had multiple sexual partners. I'm not saying that those who are experiencing or everybody experiencing infertility must have had or done such in their life. But, those are questions you begin to ask yourself, and you begin to doubt yourself that why is my body failing me? This is what it should come naturally as a woman, to be able to conceive and carry your own baby. But why is it not happening to me? More so that there is no reason. There's nothing wrong medically, So that went on till my husband decided to relocate to Australia. And he left in 2016. And I joined in 2017. Before then, we attend church. There's this women's conference we attend that my church organizes every month. We go there, and every month there will be this prayer for women waiting for the fruits of the womb, and who would always, come out and receive the prayers and, go back to our seats with faith. At a point in time, I said, you know what, God, I'm not coming out anymore. Whenever you are ready to do this, just do it. All I know is that I'm not barren. So I came down to Australia, and with, the zeal and faith and all of that, I told my husband, I'm going to get pregnant. My husband was like, slow down. Slow down. No, not yet time. I'm like, what do you mean not yet time? It's 5 years already, I am positive about this. And he said, no, I just got this job. I have to settle in and all of that. I said, okay, no worries. So, 2018, in January 2018, I started having this funny bleeding. It was brownish, and it would start before my period. And once my period comes in, my period will be normal. After my period, it will continue again. That happened in January. February, the same thing. I called my husband. I said, I'm not comfortable with this thing, because this was towards the end of February. We're going into March. I'm not comfortable with this. I think I would like to see a female GP. I'm like, oh, okay, so that he knows one person that, a friend of hers that we could go see at the clinic and all of that. And I went to see her. And, she did a scan and she said that she's not seeing anything. But it just looks as if there's fluid in the pouch of the glass. And that seems to be what is draining out. That there's nothing to be worried about. I said, okay. She said, but however, Busola, you're not getting any younger. That is it not time for us to start looking for a fertility specialist? I said, no while now. Let's look for one. So she said she was going to search around for one and get back to me on that. So between that time and, she doing her own search and all of that, around March, I said, oh God, I'm done. I'm tired of all of this, because when we got married, the plan was for me to go ahead and do my master's in the UK in clinical embryology. The major reason why we didn't go ahead with that, I was like, if I can't get pregnant, how do I want to manage? How do I want to cope in the UK? You're not going to follow me. You're going to be here. So let's just have the baby, let's have a routine, and then we can take it from there. And so that was on hold for up to from 2011, 2012 each up to 2018. So I said, you know what, God, I'm no longer living my life on hold, putting my life on hold. I'm going to go ahead and go and do this master's. I'm going to start living my life now. I'm going to go ahead to do those things that I wanted to do, but I put on hold because I wanted to have children. And after my ranting, God spoke to me and said, until you realize that I am the only one that makes you complete, then you won't be able to move ahead. This master's that you want to have does not complete you. The children that you so desire do not complete you. The husband that you have that he gave to you does not complete you. There is nothing that you have in this world that completes you. I am the only one that completes you. That was quite heavy for me. It made me realize that, I had made these things almost like an idol. They're taking so much space in my heart that I was just living for all of those things. These masters have been talking about it. I want to do it. I want to do this. I want to have kids, and all of that. And so I sat down, I took time, I meditated on that, and then I started to live that. I prayed about it and I said, God, please guide my heart and help me to reposition myself, redirect me. It was, I think, about 6 weeks after. This bleeding was still going on. That discharge was still going on all of this time. But 6 weeks after that, my husband called me and said, Busola, you're pregnant. I said, I beg, stop that thing. Leave that thing. Stop that. I'm pregnant. I beg you. I said, you're pregnant. I said, okay, I've heard. So that I won't use my own mouth to to trade what I've been looking for now. I said, okay, I've heard. It took me about 2-3 weeks to summon courage to do a pregnancy test.
Wow.
And when I did, it was positive. It was so surreal because I was thinking that, okay, when did this happen? How did this happen? Remember, this bleeding was still going on. So when did it happen? How? When? And then some things started happening. Some testimonies were coming in, I was like, okay, God is actually trying to tell me something here that, okay, this is really happening. It was until when I was in my second trimester before, because it was towards the beginning of my third trimester that I was really showing.
Wow.
So
you could quote unquote hide it.
Yeah. It's, in fact, by the time I got to almost to the last 2-3 weeks, for some people realized that I was pregnant. So it was so surreal to me. It was unreal. It was until I got into the second trimester that I was like, okay, I'm actually pregnant. That I believed that I was actually pregnant. And so that was how my fertility journey went. It wasn't like, even though I'd done IUI before, I'd used Clomid and all of that. But at this point in time, by the time the female GP called me, my friend, by the time she called me, I said, oh, that was around that 6 weeks that she called me. I said, oh, so good news. I've been able to get a fertility specialist. I said, babe, I don't need it anymore. She was like, hey. She said, yes. I said, yes. That God has done it. So she said, hey, oh, yeah, come to the clinic. So we went to the clinic and she did a scan, but we didn't see anything. All right.
What?
We didn't see anything. But a urine pregnancy test confirmed that I was pregnant. And she said, okay, you know what, we'll do it. We'll do this scan in another 2 weeks. We are going to do this scan in another 2 weeks. And when we did the scan 2 weeks after, that was when we saw the sac and then the fetal pool.
How did you get by those 2 weeks?
I was just confessing God's word, I was positive. I took my mind out of it because the truth of the matter is that I can't even remember if I really had morning sickness. So that what made the whole thing look really surreal to me. Like I was in between, that is this real or not real? Like I said, some things happened that make me, some testimonies happened that made me feel like, okay, God is up to something. Then that means something is really going in my belly, because I didn't feel it. And that was how it happened. And it's almost about the same thing with the second baby that came 4 years after. So
just like that.
Just like that. So my type of infertility could be ascribed to unexplained infertility. And that can really get really people experience it that can get into depression, can have anxiety, because unlike those with explained infertility, we know what the problem is. We know the solutions, we know what we can do. Maybe a surgery has to be done, maybe it's IVF, maybe it's IUI, or maybe it's lifestyle factors that need to be adjusted. But with unexplained infertility, you don't know, you can't just pinpoint what the problem is. It's not just happening, so that's been my story. And in between, I had a miscarriage after the first one. So, when I was ready to have the second one, I had a miscarriage in between. And okay, let me quickly say that, because that's the essence of this podcast, to share our story and to encourage other people out there. So after I had my first baby, you know how we are like Oliver Twist. You're like, okay, we can have another one. I said, okay, let's have the second one. And then I got pregnant just like that. And I think around the time I got pregnant, so shortly before then, my husband was like, okay, so let's go and let's plan for this master's now. Our baby is about 2 years old. So let's go ahead and do this master's that you've always talked about. I said, okay, fine. So I applied to the uni in Scotland and I got the admission. And then I found out I was pregnant. So I told the school that, okay, I'll be deferring this admission because I'm pregnant. I'm not sure I'll be able to cope, with the rigors of academics, combining academics with being pregnant. Even though they told me they would support me and all of that. But yeah, it is what it is. So I deferred. And then a couple of weeks after I deferred, I had a miscarriage. So in trying to deal with that, I knew I needed to go out, because we don't have family in Australia. So there was no place I could run to. My husband has to go to work. I'm alone with her toddler. So I just told him, let me just go and do this master's. Let me have that change of environment. It would help me to heal. And I said, okay, fine. That he would join me with our baby in December. So I got to Scotland in September 2021. And before my husband came, I told God, I said, you know what? Another ranting, but this one wasn't like a conversation. I said, you know what? Whether it's this year or next year, I'll still get pregnant again. You know that. Let me just do this thing once and for all. Let me get pregnant now. So that before I graduate, I would have had the baby. I was already calculating and planning everything. So we're supposed to graduate in October. Yeah, and I said, okay, by the time I'm done with my project and all of that, which will be around May, June, that I should be able to have the baby by then. So it would be nice if it happens this December. So, or it can happen in January, so that, I can carry my baby and go and do my graduation. Then
just letting him know exactly.
Just letting him know exactly what I wanted. And Ola, it just happened in December. By January, I confirmed I was pregnant. And so my excuse for not going ahead to do this so-called master's 10 years earlier was what I was battling with in Scotland. So I had my toddler with me. I was pregnant and I was doing my master's. I was studying for my master's. But thankfully, I had my mother-in-law come around to help at a period in time. And that was how, I was able to cope during that 2021 and 2022. And so, yeah, it's been God all the way. I wouldn't ascribe any of that by my own strength or effort or knowledge or whatever. It's just God all the way. So that's been my fertility story all along, all the way, yeah.
What an amazing testimony.
Yeah.
I mean, both cases. And it's just interesting to see that, like you said, what you delayed for so long, that it did end up being the same anyway. Like all that time, like, I want to get pregnant, so I didn't want to go away because I want to get pregnant and focus. But then you went away and still got pregnant and still had a toddler and still did the master's anyway, in spite of it all. So I think it was just, almost God saying, hey, I can still make all this happen. You don't have to help me out.
Exactly. That was just it. That was just it. Ola, you just hit the nail on the head. That was just it. Because I sat down, thinking about this interview. I sat down like, wait a minute. What I wanted not to happen was what happened eventually. So it was just, it took a decade for me to realize that, So
amazing.
By the year, so by the time the year we're celebrating our 30th anniversary was, I was pregnant with the second baby and had the second baby in 2022. And it wasn't easy, but God really helped me out right from family, school, my lecturers, the way it just orchestrated everything. My project was not what I wanted, but that was what was assigned to me. It was the list of the topics that was the list that I selected, and that was what I got. I wanted something that had to do with the lab to hone my skills, but I got like a project that had to do with survey, data analysis, statistics, and all of that. I wasn't happy initially. By then, I wasn't pregnant, so I wasn't happy initially. God, man, I wanted lab work, that kind of thing. Not knowing that everything was working together for my good. I was one of the first set of people that finished that project on time. I didn't have any hiccups. In fact, it was just so sweet, everything just went on well. I had the support. I had everything that I needed. God just made it work out well. And that was it.
That is so encouraging and inspiring. And to think that, think of all, like you said, your 10th year anniversary, you have a second baby coming. And if you had looked back, 3 and your 3rd year anniversary, or your 4th year anniversary, where you were seeing that things were not happening the way you want, nothing was happening. Your sister got married, had the first baby, then later had the second, and you're thinking, what is going on? Like if anyone had told you that, a few years down the line, you have had the 2 or almost had the 2 that you wanted.
You
might not have believed it.
Yeah, I wouldn't have believed it. But thinking back now, when you're looking at it retrospectively, like, maybe if God had just showed me that, okay, this will happen at this time, maybe I would have been, I would just have chilled, and not bother myself with having to do high and taking all of those drugs and what have you. But I guess that's just God's way of saying, you just have to trust me on this journey, and which I know what's best for you. Because I was like, if I know this was going to happen, I just am going to do this master's all this while now. Why am I now using my old age to be studying? Don't mind me.
But he still worked out perfectly,
Yeah, he did. He did beautifully. Yeah, the story ended on a happy note.
Yes, so thank God for that. Thank you for sharing. And it's interesting, your husband knew that you were the first time, and that's so interesting. Did he ever tell you why he thought you were pregnant?
The first time was because he actually even told me when I joined him. He told me that God told him that I was pregnant, but he argued it out with God that no, it can't happen now.
Interesting.
Because then he just got a job after being in Australia for like 10 months, because it was sitting for the exams to work as a medical doctor in Australia.
Right.
So he just got a job working as a support worker, and we had not rented an apartment to move into. We were staying with someone, so it didn't just look right to him. It didn't just look right to have a pregnant woman in someone else's house, and we don't have any savings, nothing. So it was like, no, it can't happen. Let us settle down a bit. Let's have some savings, and then it can happen. So when he told me, when he now told me that I was pregnant, he said God had told him the second time, Busola is pregnant. He said this time around, he didn't even bother arguing that he had learned his lesson. So he just kept quiet. He said, okay, Lord, let your will be done. That's it. So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that was
it. And knowing how, it's amazing that you choose to share your story. So thank you so much for all you're doing to raise awareness and to encourage others by sharing your testimony. But, I'm sure you're aware how stigmatized infertility is and any struggles with fertility delays. Globally, it doesn't matter. But even more so from Nigeria, like you noted earlier as well, and, children being a very important part of many cultures, even in Nigeria. So knowing that it's highly stigmatized, why have you chosen to share your story, and why did you choose to raise awareness on your platform?
Okay. Excuse me. I decided to share my story because I realized that a lot of people are dying in silence because of the stigma. It's such a heavy weight on people. Not everybody has the opportunity not everybody going through this has the opportunity or the privilege of having supportive spouses, in-laws, friends, surround them. And it's interesting to know that the mental health of people going through infertility has come to the forefront now. Research is going on because it's been discovered, I think, in Europe. I can't remember the country exactly now, that over 70%, if I'm sure of the statistics, of women, in fact, I think it's even close to about 80 or 90% of the women who go through infertility come down with anxiety or depression, such that they have to see a psychologist to be able to deal with that. So people, and in the African climate, where having children is, it's almost as if that's the hallmark of getting married. It's devastating to note that a lot of women are dying in silence. Even men, just because in Africa, men are not supposed to cry or to show their emotions as they were brought up to be, or they were told when they were growing up. But a lot of people are dying in silence because they cannot come out boldly to say, hey, this is what I'm going through. it's not every day. I mean, life can be tough. People not going through infertility sometimes even find it difficult to wake up in the morning to, to face life, not to come and talk of someone going through infertility. And like I said earlier on, those going through unexplained infertility, it's even worse because you cannot just pinpoint what exactly the problem is or to know what solution. And such people are subject to all sorts, scams and what have you out there because they are capitalizing on this desire or this desperate need to want to have their own children. So that's why I'm coming out, and be vocal about this, that the society, the narrative has to change. People are going through a lot, except if they don't want kids, then, they're fine. That's their decision. But for those who want kids, they are human beings. They have feelings, so we need to be more empathic towards them. We need to be conscious of their well-being, of their mental health. We need to befriend them genuinely. I was just thinking about it, like, when I was still, that was a phase for me. When I was still in that phase, I would prefer that take, for instance, you're in a social gathering. You know how the way parties can be in Nigeria, and one great auntie, walks up to you like, Busola, báwo ni o ti bímọ ni, kí ló ń ṣẹlẹ̀? I'm praying for you, saying that publicly. I'd rather you come close to me and speak into my ears and say that, Busola, I'm rooting for you, I'm praying for you. The next person doesn't need to hear what you are saying. That public embarrassment, and a lot of women face that, so that they feel like the ground should open up and it should swallow them at that particular point in time. A lot of women, it's their mother-in-laws. In fact, for some other people, it's even their own parents stigmatizing them, like, what's going on? What did you use your youth to do? How many abortions did you have? All of those kind of things. And so that's why I'm coming out, for people to know that there is hope. You are not alone in facing this. And you've got to live your life, girl. You've got to live your life. Guy, you've got to live your life. I didn't. For 10 years, I didn't get to achieve what I wanted to achieve. I made this priority and let other parts of my life to suffer. People need to, get themselves together and be able to. It's not easy. It's not easy, but people need to be able to go past that and move on with life. There will always be those down times, those moments. You want to be alone in your bedroom and you want to cry it out. You want to be alone and just shout. You want to be angry. You want to be upset. And then you come out and smile like nothing is wrong. There's something going on. And if you have that support system, you have that community where you can, share all of this pain, all of this anxiety, all of this bitterness in you, it's even going to be good for your body, because those are stressors that can cause hormonal imbalance as well. So that's why I'm coming out in this.
Thank you so much. You highlighted so many important points, and why it is so important to have the right support and the changes we need in the society as well. So thank you for speaking out. I'm always so happy when I see platforms like yours and people are sharing their stories, and people are, providing support to others that might still be going through their fertility journeys. Because again, like you highlighted, it is so important to have people that understand, people that can hold you and support you during those very difficult days and times. So thank you for all that you're doing.
Thank you.
And for anyone listening, thinking to themselves that they want to reach out to you, what's the best way to reach you?
On Instagram, it's you can reach me on Instagram. My page handle is at Niger Fertility Educator. I'm also on LinkedIn as Busola Olumide on LinkedIn. I think you can also search up Niger Fertility Educator on LinkedIn, so you can find me on LinkedIn. Or you can send me an email on bsnfclagos@gmail.com.
I'll put the details as well in the show notes so people can reach out to you.
Okay.
So with your fertility journey, how do you think that it changed you as a person?
Okay. It's made me more empathic towards people. Now when I'm talking to clients and, and I tell them, I understand how you feel. It's because I actually don't understand how they feel. It's made me know that this infertility, it can, how do I put it? I don't want to say it can make or mar you, because for some people it's a phase, and for some other people it's a journey. Like for someone like me, it was a phase. But for some other people, it's a journey in the sense that they might have to come to terms with the fact that they might never be able to have kids of their own, or they would have to resort to adoption. So that's a journey, So it made me to realize that, and it made me to also realize that there are lots of options or opportunities in the field of assisted reproductive technology. I'd always thought that I'll be working in the lab, but, with motherhood and what I'm going experiencing the face of my life and being a mother, well, not like it really hurts anyway. Coaching, fertility coaching and educating is what I would like to venture into. So it actually opened my eyes to a whole world of assisted conception technology, the different parts that you have there. It has made me more patient, and it has made me more conscious of how I communicate with other people, because in our field, those of us providing the service, we can easily see our clients as just a number. It's very easy to fall into that trap and forget that this is a human face. There's a feeling behind it, So it's connected me. It's made me more connected, with them, to help them out and be able to voice my concerns and be able to voice, solutions, suggestions in a better way.
These are amazing changes. It's made you a much better person.
Yeah, it has. Because I don't know how you can quantify patience, but for you to be able to wait patiently for a decade, the first baby came 7 years after marriage, and it's able to wait and not resort to suicidal ideology, because it could be that extreme for some people, especially those that are being battered with constant abuse, verbal, emotional,
and even physical in some cases.
And physical, in some cases, for some women, they just want to kill themselves. Like, what's the point of living? So yeah.
So now,
sometimes when I think about it, it's still a bit emotional,
when I think
never
about
leaves
it,
you,
right?
Yeah, it never leaves you. You're happy when you see your kids. When you eventually come out of that phase, you're happy when you see your kids, and it looks like it never happened, that you could have waited. Now you can now say, oh, I could have waited another 10 years for you to come into my life at this point. Even though, and like they said, human memory is short, but when I see my clients, when I go to the hospital and I see, people waiting for their injections, or waiting for egg collection, or waiting for transfers, and I'm reminded that, I was once in this position. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you.
So now you're fertility coach as well.
Yeah.
Okay. So people that are going through their fertility journeys can reach out to you. What types of people do you support?
I'm carrying out my niche with people who have PCOS and unexplained infertility.
Okay.
Because I think they need more support. Because you can't really say that at this point in time is when it will happen.
Right.
Unlike for those undergoing explained infertility, whereby it's a 50-50 chance if they go for IVF, there will be conception. Right. And most times people with unexplained, according to research, people with unexplained infertility, sometimes the treatment doesn't really work for them. So you need to be able to support them. I think they're the ones that need most of the support, to hold their hands through whatever procedure they're going through, and to keep on encouraging them, because part of what the fertility coach does is to provide that emotional and psychological support, and then also to be able to educate them on how, ovulation, the timing, and what have you, lifestyle changes and what have you.
Right. Yeah, because for some people it might just be with the timing for some people.
Yeah.
So
it
can be so different.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. And with the fertility journey, the delays, how do you think it impacted yourself and your husband, your relationship?
It's made us stronger, because it made our bond stronger, our love for each other stronger, because during those times we're just two of us. So we learned how to communicate better. At a point in time, I must confess that within the first 2-3 years, sexual intimacy was beginning to look like a chore to me, because at the point in time I was like, we're doing this and it's not happening. So what's the point? And please, I'm not in the mood. Please, I'm not interested. I don't just want to do this. But I realized, and according to what the Bible says, sexual intimacy is not just for procreation. It's just one of the benefits. Procreation is just one of the benefits of sexual intimacy. And so I had to pray to God to, help me. It was a prayer point to Ohola, that God, please help me psychologically, help me physically, let my husband appeal to me again, help me to enjoy intimacy with my husband, help me to be open to him. And that prayer did a whole lot, changed my outlook to all of that. And yes, we still do have a wonderful relationship. My husband is my number one fan. He's always rooting for me. And when the day I knew the level of love he had for me was one of those days I was crying after staying another period when we were back in Nigeria, and I was crying. I was so sad. And he told me, he said, Busola, am I not worth more than 10 sons to you? And I looked at him and I was like, wow. Because that means that, what you're trying to tell me is that even if I don't have children, that you still love me. That was what it meant to me. And, it took my respect for him from here to there, And so it's made our love deeper, our relationship with God deeper. And it's obvious with the kids now, because everything we tell the kids now, it's just about God. It's just God, because he has brought us this far. Because this is a challenge that has broken some homes. Yeah, especially if, like I said again, with unexplained infertility. I think unexplained infertility is something not really, really spoken about. Like I said, it's just that uncertainty. It's just that what is
you don't even know what to actually address.
You don't even know what to address. You don't know what you're even praying about. If everything structurally or physically is good, except maybe genetically, which you cannot really see, and it will take some advanced testings to do, and which can be quite expensive. Yeah. But if every other thing is okay as per basic testing done, then you're wondering why. So it's a different ball game, with unexplained infertility.
Well done to your
So
husband.
yeah. Thank you.
We definitely want to thank him and pray for more men like him to be supportive of their spouses and partners during the whole journey, because it makes such a huge difference. And I don't think people actually realize, like you mentioned earlier, that you start to ask yourself, what's the point of sexual intimacy? Because again, in your mind, and for especially when you come from a Nigerian culture, I think people know that as soon as you get married, the expected thing, quote unquote, is that you start having sex and you have babies. And of course, when it's not happening, you start to question, what's the point then, right? Because it seems to be a waste of time.
Of time.
Yeah. And so that's such an important prayer that you share. So thank you for sharing that, because again, we don't realize how important it is to find ways to remain in tune with each other and to support each other through all that phase.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
I would just like to quickly chip in that being there for a couple experiencing infertility, whichever way, I think being there for each other, it's key. And though it might not be popular opinion, but I think the time that you have together without kids, it can be one of the best times of your life. Because I tell you, once the kids come in, it's a different ball game. It affects everything, physically, financially, mentally, emotionally. It affects everything. So bond together, pray together, talk together, be best friends. Be best friends. It doesn't matter who has the issue. For maybe the man has a low sperm count, or maybe the woman has a blocked fallopian tube, whatever, it doesn't matter. Be one. Let's just have this united front so that whoever is coming, have each other's back, so that whatever external influence is coming in, you'll be able to support each other and you'll be able to walk through the journey together. It's really, really hard if you don't have a supportive spouse, in this journey. Yeah.
Thank you for highlighting that. Very, very important. And I think that hopefully there's more awareness for that in the society as well, so people can be mindful of their statements to either partner, to even the couple, to know how their words or their advice, how it can impact the couple and the whole situation. It can make it better or make it worse. So I think people need to be aware of that.
Yes, and we shouldn't think that the men are not affected as well. Just because they are not saying anything, just because they are not showing their emotions, does not mean that they are not equally affected. Does not mean that they are not thinking about this. Especially, like, again, I would like to defer to unexplained infertility. We don't know the reason why this is happening, why we're not having the kids yet. So it's also bothering them. But because he's not talking about it that often, because you have not caught him crying.
Yeah, exactly.
Does not mean that he's not experiencing the same thing that you're experiencing. It's just that the way he's expressing it is different. And we need to also understand that, especially we wives, because sometimes you're wondering, when Auntie Flo shows up again and he's telling you he's concerned, that it's okay, it's fine, we'll try again, we'll keep doing this. And you're like, what are you saying? I'm the one taking the injections. I'm the one taking the drugs. I'm the one, you're just, that's not what he needs at that time. So if he could find someone to console him, there could be a third person to console him, he wouldn't mind that as well. So we wives too should be mindful of our husband's emotions, their feelings as well in this journey, especially when we're expressing our disappointments, Yeah.
So well said. Thank you for sharing that. And knowing all you know now, with all your wealth of knowledge and experience and lived experience as well, if you could go back in time to that teenager, that 18-year-old Busola, getting into OAU, having fun, having a good time, what would you tell her?
Mm-hmm. I'll just tell her to relax. So life is not hard.
Yeah.
Life is not hard. Especially for if you're a child of God. Just trust him that he has the best plan for you. He has already seen the head. He's the one outside the box. We had the one in the box, and what we are seeing is just the four corners of the box. We are not seeing beyond that. But he is outside and he can see everything. He sees the outcome of everything. So if we can just learn to trust that even though what we are aspiring for, it's not coming in right now, we are not seeing it now. God, who is the master of the universe, has our lives planned out if we just follow his map. If we just trust him. I don't know the reason why God doesn't show us everything. Like the Bible says that we know in parts, we don't know everything, but I guess it's just for us to learn to trust him. So I'll just tell the younger version of myself, do what you can do and just leave the rest for God. And right now, sincerely, my mom still says that I'm just one of the unfazed. I'm not faced with whatever happens. I'm just so calm because I tell myself, well, babe, you cannot do anything about it. You've tried your best. So you can't do anything. Just go and rest. And I'll just go and rest, and I watch God do what he wants to do. So yeah. I used to be a warrior, if there's a word like that. I used to worry a lot
there
in my
is.
teenage years. I used to worry a lot, I'm that kind of person that I like everything. If I have a project I want to focus on, I want to have a B, C, D, E, F, G, H, if it doesn't happen this way, the combinations and permutations and all of that. All the backups. I don't want any surprise at all, and if it's not going that way, it's difficult for me to adjust, right? So, but over time, with God showing himself in different areas of my life, I'm just like, once I've done it to where I know how to do it and it's still not working, I just drop the mic, man. I'm like, God, over to you. However it turns out, I'm happy with that. Yes. So yeah.
That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. And if there's any words of encouragement that you'd like to share with anyone listening right now that is still going through their own fertility journey or phase?
Yeah, I'll tell them not to give up. And I'm so passionate about unexplained infertility. Please pardon me because it's something I went through. There's this analogy I like to give a lot when I'm talking with my clients, and I tell them that let's look at, if you're familiar with the Bible, let's look at John the Baptist. The parents of John the Baptist had him at an advanced age. They could have had him in their teenage years because the Israelites are trying to get married quite early. They could have had him earlier. They could have had him in their 30s. They could have had him in their 40s, but they had him late. And that was because prophecy had to be fulfilled. He was going to be the forerunner, and Jesus was not going to come to a certain time, a certain dispensation, to a certain town, to a certain set of people. Jesus could have come during the time of Abraham. It could have come when the Israelites were still in Egypt. It could have come at any point in time, but God chose for him to come at a particular time. And so, because Jesus was scheduled to come at a particular time, so also was John the Baptist. He was also scheduled to come at a particular time. If John the Baptist had come 100 years earlier, perhaps his coming or being on the surface of the earth won't have held so much power or won't have been so much relevance, right? So I tell people with unexplained infertility that the baby that you're about to, or that you're going to have, God is keeping that baby to come at a particular time. My husband and I still look at our kids and we're like, God, there must be a reason why, God allowed them to come at this time. God has prepared them. We are praying and trusting God to open our eyes so that we can know how to support them, how to bring them up and all of that. But there must be a reason why He delayed their coming to the world at this particular time. So for every person going through unexplained fertility, I want you to rest in the fact that there's a reason. After you have done everything, after all has been said and done, you've done all the tests and it's been confirmed it's unexplained infertility, rest in the fact that God knows what He is doing, and that child is going to come at a particular time, at a particular dispensation. We've seen in the records in the Bible that there's nobody that is too old to have a baby. Abraham had a child at the age of 100. Sarah had a child at the age of 90. I am not saying that that's what's going to happen to you. I'm just trying to link dispensations together. So just continue to trust God. Continue to pray and enjoy. Like I'll keep on saying, enjoy this time with your partner. Enjoy this time with your spouse. Go and live your life. Start that business that you always wanted to start. Go for that education that you've always wanted to have. Do that thing that you've always wanted to do. Don't say because I want to get pregnant, you will not do this, you will not do that. No, don't do that. Move on with your life and avoid negative energy as much as possible. Walk away from it. It's not going to help you. It's not going to help the hormones in your body. It's not going to help your thinking. It's not going to help your mental health. Walk away from negative energy. Find happiness or joy in something that you enjoy doing. Start new hobbies. Do something. Go out. Go to the cinema. Go and have a spa treatment. Whatever. Make yourself happy and bond with your partner as much as possible. And most importantly, keep on praying. And I would say, what I used to tell myself in that time of my life, my husband and I, there's a part in the Bible where it says that it was God who gave them the power to make wealth. It's God, the Lord your God, who gives you power to make wealth. What I say is that it's the Lord my God who gives me the power to conceive. And I say that every day. I confess that every day till it happened. So, yeah. That's it. And for some people, it could be that God is trying to call your attention to something. And that was it in my own case. It could be that you have made something an idol and it's taking so much. You know how God is a jealous God. So if He's trying to catch your attention, you will just keep on failing that class. So you have to, calm down. What is that rema for you? What is that word? What is that assignment? Maybe there's an assignment God has for you that you're running away from. So you have to go back to the drawing board and go and sit down with your maker that what is going on so that you can pass this class. And for those who have explained infertility, please do not give up hope. Please do not give up hope. Please do not give up hope. The same things that I've said for those with unexplained infertility also applies to you. Keep praying. God is the one who gives children and He decides when He wants to give them, when He wants to release them. So while you are waiting, while you are trying on the treatments and all of that, also enjoy your life. It's not easy. I've met someone who went through IVF. Like I think she had like 40 cycles, before she had she had already had one child before, and then she had 40 cycles before she had another baby. But in all of that, she had to just live her life while waiting. She achieved a whole lot of things in her life. In Australia, here, she has one of the thriving dental practices in the regional area here in Australia. So go ahead and live your life. And I trust that the Lord God who gives babies will definitely give you your own. And it's not common in the African culture, but adoption is not something that we should run away from. Actually, my husband and I were considering it before the Lord gave us our first baby. We were seriously considering it. So adoption is not something you should run away from. I know someone personally who adopted, and after she adopted, she took him. So different strokes for different folks, but there are some people that, who have to come to terms with the fact that they will not be able to carry their own babies. Adoption is also another way of having a child. So don't let us block our minds away from adopting. There are so many beautiful children out there looking for wonderful parents like yourself, for you to adopt them.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Very insightful. And I think it's important to, like you said, to continue to live our lives while working towards and praying and hoping and exploring all the treatment options. And like you said, to also be aware that all different paths to parenthood. So thank you so much for sharing that. It really has been amazing having you on here today to share your story, to give insight to your journey and your experience and what you're currently doing now to help many others. I think it's so important that we hear stories like yours, just to get inspired, to encourage, remind us that, like you said, God is God and He's always present with us, even though we might not understand initially. So thank you so much for sharing your story. It's been wonderful having you on here. Just before we wrap up, any final words or anything else that you'd like to share before we wrap up the session?
I'll just like to address quickly, I think ways in which infertility can be, if I can use the word destigmatized, is for first and foremost, leadership has a whole lot to do. I'm speaking for Africa, Nigeria in particular, because that's where I'm from. If we can have policies, that support reproductive health, most especially assisted reproductive technology.
Sorry, I missed a bit of that. You said that you're speaking for Africa.
Yeah, for Africa and Nigeria in particular, that if the governments could have policies that support reproductive health, particularly assisted reproductive technology, it will go a long way. Imagine if the government is involved, because the statistics shows infertility is increasing. Statistics tells us that it's between 1 in 4 couples that are trying to conceive. In some claims it's 1 in 5, in some is 1 in 6. If the government could support, because these are expensive procedures, if the government could support couples, or support organizations so that they can offer no-cost IVF to patients, because a lot of people can't afford these procedures and they really want to have children of their own. So if there are policies that could make it affordable for people, like take for instance in the UK, the NHS offers 3 cycles of IVF to couples, even though it's under a strict criteria, but at least, the citizens have that option available to them. So if we can have that, and it would also be wonderful if the media can also help propagate what all of this is about, because if the media is involved, the stigmatization, I believe, would reduce greatly. So maybe documentaries, to let people know that this is how people going through this feel, so that the general public can be better sensitized to the feelings of people going through infertility.
Exactly.
Yeah. Those are things I would just like to add. So
thank you for highlighting that. It would make a huge difference. So we hope that someone in the government, someone in the media would listen to this episode, or someone would share with them, and they would also take in that feedback and advice and see how they can better support people, individuals and couples in our country, Nigeria.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yes. One person at a time, you never know. They hear this and the changes start to happen. So the more we're speaking
Yes.
about it and raising awareness, the more people, because sometimes people might not even think about it because they
Yeah.
don't know anyone someone that's dealing with it. And until they hear, and then like, oh, well, that's true, we can do
Yeah.
that. And then the policies
Yeah.
start to change.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, if we have, and it's not just about even grants, the government making the climb conducive for more fertility clinics to open up. I know low-cost IVF is very possible. I know there's something called the Working Egg Project that offers low-cost IVF, but for them to be able to break into Africa has been difficult for decades.
Wow.
So, if the government is able to encourage such so that they can collaborate with existing fertility clinics and offer people, especially in the rural areas, this service, then to go a long way. And like I said, if the media can, maybe do documentaries, interview people who are willing to speak, and then we have more advocates, then we begin to demystify this infertility, because I believe that it is a public health issue because infertility is increasing. I liken it to malaria that has a burden, an economic burden, on the revenue of Africa. Someone who has malaria, take for instance, a mother has malaria, she can't go to work. A child will not be able to go to school. It just affects the economy in a way. So also is infertility, even though that effect might just be a fraction. For a woman that has to go for a cycle, she has to go in for her appointments, take her injections. On the day of egg recovery, she might not just want to go to work. On the day of transfer, she doesn't want to go to work. All of those days had her, right? Yeah. From missing work and being able to generate income and what have you. So if we have advocates, if we have people, policies that can be enacted to support families, going through this, it will go a whole lot. It will definitely reduce the burden, because I know of people who have had to resign because they are going through IVF or they are going through any procedure. They've had to resign because they always miss work, right? So those are things that can help in our client.
So well said. Thank you so much for sharing, Busola. Those are really amazing tips and advice and inputs that we hope that we able to be implemented to help and provide support to so many others.
Thank you.
Because again, the fertility issues is rising globally. So
the
more support we're able to provide, the better it will be for everybody.
Yeah, true, very true.
Thank you so much. And I know, like many people that are listening, they have learned so much from you, hearing your story and hearing all that you do to support. So we'll definitely be putting your details in the show notes so people can reach out to you, people seeking fertility coaching or support, or just someone to talk to. They'll be able to reach out to you and they can help provide support to them. We're so thankful for you, for your journey, and for your spouse being so supportive through all those waiting times, and for your wonderful children that you've been blessed with. Thank you so much for coming here to share your story, Busola, and we hope that you'll be able to join us again in the near future.
Thank you so much, Ola. It was a pleasure.